Welcome to Bullpine Legends. Thank you for joining me. Today's legend isn't about a lost mine or buried gold or conquistadors or anything like that. This is about a local landmark, and I think it's very much worthy of a video, and I do hope you enjoy it. Let's get right to it. So today we're actually going to go to my hometown of Okanagan Falls, British Columbia. Now this was an amazing community to grow up in. It was a lot of fun, and it still is an amazing community. By all means, check it out. Okanagan Falls got its start back in about 1876. And that's when Michael Keogan was given the first crown grant of land in the area. And he was a cattle rancher, and his place was just south of Okanagan Falls. Now, a little side note, back in those days, Okanagan Falls was actually called Dogtown. This was because the early French fur traders referred to what's now called Skaha Lake as Lac du Chien, or Lake of Dogs, Dog Lake. And therefore, the small community that was there was referred to as Dogtown right up until the 1930s. Although I think the official townsite plan was registered as Okanagan Falls in the mid-1890s. And this was done by a gentleman by the name of W.J. Snodgrass. And he had a vision for this town. When he showed up, he realized that Dogtown was located at a geographic advantage. He realized that, there was Penticton to the north, he had Headley, Princeton, and Carameas to the west. You had Fairview to the south. You had Camp McKinney to the southwest, Rock Creek beyond that, and several small towns on the other side of the U.S.-Canada border. And he had an idea that, this Dogtown could become the next big thing if it were to act as the hub for all of these locations. Now, unfortunately, that never really came to fruition, but a small town was established, and obviously still exists to this day. Fast forward to about 1928, and there's a local minister by the name of Reverend Fair. And he's holding his weekly congregations in the back room of a store, so like a small warehouse, I guess. Not too comfortable for him or for his people. He needed a church and didn't have a lot of money, and he started looking around at different options. And somebody made a neat suggestion to him. They said, hey, you know what? There's the old Presbyterian church down in the mining town of Fairview, 30 kilometers away. It's sitting empty. Why don't we dismantle it and bring it up to Okanagan Falls and rebuild it? He thought this was a pretty good idea, but wasn't really sure how to go about it. Now, that church was built in 1899 and was empty for the better part of that 30 years that it was standing. And it was made from rough sawn fir from the Madden Mill up by Madden Lake. And if you know anything about working with rough sawn fir that sat out in the sun for any period of time, you know that it's rock hard. That pitch, it turns to almost like glass, and it's hard to drive a nail in it, let alone pull a nail out of it. In fact, attempting to do so, you would just shatter the boards. The boards would break before the nails would pull out nicely. So this was a problem with dismantling the church, right? And then another local by the name of Harley Hatfield came up with a pretty cool idea. He said, let's pull all the windows out of it, let's board them up, and set off a small charge of dynamite inside the building. That should loosen all the nails. Well, everybody thought this was a grand idea, and that's exactly what they did. So what I've got here is a first-hand account of the church being dynamited. This was written by Russ Overton. He's my grandfather. He's passed back in 2011. And I'm pretty sure that his intention with writing this was to submit it to the Okanagan Historical Society. He made several contributions to their books, and I think that was his intention, was to send this to them. So I might still send this to them, but I'll read it aloud for you guys, and then maybe in the comments I'll post a couple of pictures of it so you guys can read it yourself if you want. I was there the day they dynamited the church in the old mining town of Fairview. It was not Mr. Harley Hatfield who hung the charge in the church, as has been stated. It was Mr. J.R. Christie of Okanagan Falls, who, being quite familiar with the use of dynamite explosives, hung the 4 sticks of dynamite in the exact center of the church, halfway between floor and vaulted ceiling. If you've ever been inside this church, you'll notice that there's wainscoting all around it, and then tongue and groove cladding all the way over through the vaulted ceiling. Harley Hatfield and his father, Mr. A.S. Hatfield, owned interior contracting and did a lot of heavy construction work for CP Railway. On the particular day that the church was dynamited, Mr. Harley Hatfield was away on a construction job. At 3 o'clock one bright spring day, Mr. Christie came to the school 100 yards from the church and asked the teacher, Miss Maud Haynes, to keep her students in the schoolyard till after the dynamite discharge. All the church windows had been removed and the openings boarded up. While we watched, there was a muffled boom and some shingles came rattling to the ground. One historian stated on TV that 1/2 stick of dynamite was used, and it blew the steeple off the church. The truth was, the hand saws were used to cut off the steeple, and it was toppled to the ground. When a large explosion takes place in an enclosed area, tremendous pressure is built up in every crack and cranny. This is followed by a split second later by an implosion. This implosion pushes nails from their sockets and loosens lumber. Mr. Christie told me years later that they split hardly any of the brittle tongue and groove wainscoting and wall and ceiling cladding. A tremendous job well done. The lumber was trucked to Okanagan Falls, where it was reassembled on its present location. The old bell still rings on Sunday mornings, and the sunlight shines in through the stained glass windows. Take note of the broad pine boards used to make the pews. I would suggest that lumber was sawn at Madden's mill up at Madden Lake. The remnants of that mill were still there when the Overtons came to the old town of Fairview in 1922. If you look closely, you will see the work of hand planes used to smooth the lumber. The old building now has a stucco coating over the drop siding. Come and see it. Russ Overton. Okay, so now a couple of side notes about this story. So, it's written in many places, and I've heard verbally my whole life, that it was Mr. Harley Hatfield that set off the charges in the church. But to me, after reading this, sounds like maybe it was Harley Hatfield's idea to set the charges off in the church, and that it was actually Jim Christie that did the work. This makes sense. Jim Christie was a very prominent citizen in Okanagan Falls. Christie Memorial Park is named after him. Christie Mountain's named after his family. So, yeah, it all kind of adds up. And supporting that is the fact that Granddad talked to him later on in life about that day. So it's kind of neat. Might change things a little bit for some people, but yeah, so be it. It is what it is. I can't prove it either way, but this is the best I know. So It's always interesting when new information comes to light, right? Granddad also mentions the pews in the old church there. Now, originally these came from Elliott's Hall in Fairview. They were definitely sawn by the Madden brothers, and Elliott's Hall donated them to the church when it was still in Fairview, I believe. And sometime shortly after that, they added the hymn holders that you see on the back of the pews. But yeah, these are absolutely amazing pieces of furniture. And I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that there probably isn't another piece of furniture that was made in the Okanagan that is that old that still exists and is still in use to this day. If you ever get a chance, go check them out. Okay, so next up, the steeple. So like Granddad said, they actually cut and removed the steeple. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say the reason they didn't reattach it was chances are when they toppled it off the edge of the building, it probably smashed when it hit the ground. It probably wasn't salvageable. But there is a really good reason why they removed the steeple from the church. See, when you put an explosion inside of a small space, and that space isn't uniform, that explosion is going to concentrate itself in the smallest point. And basically what you have is a bullet. The building is the casing, and the steeple is the neck down, right? Essentially, if they hadn't cut that steeple off, they would have sent it right up into the heavens. No doubt about it. It would have been a rocket. Would have been kind of amazing to see, but probably would have defeated the purpose of what they were trying to accomplish. So that's why they removed the steeple. Okay, so regarding the charge itself, the explosion itself, in all the written accounts that I've read, including Granddad's here, it states that there was 4 sticks of dynamite hung within the building and set off at the same time. Now, I remember talking with Granddad about this at one point, and he corrected himself, and he said that it was actually 4 quarter sticks of dynamite that were hung inside the building. He said 4 sticks of dynamite would blow the place straight to hell. That's not a good place for a church to be. So, I don't know, maybe some of you guys out there who are more familiar with explosives could chime in on this. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you guys think. In my mind, it makes sense that there was probably 4 quarter sticks of dynamite. Okay, and then the final thing I just wanted to talk about real quick was the fact that there's an addition on the church now. And that came about in 1957/58. And essentially in 1957, there was the Copper Mountain mine just outside of Princeton. It shut down. Price of copper dropped, and the company couldn't keep it going. And they had a company town on site, if you will. And the company that owned it put all those buildings up for sale. Deal was, they were like $400 each, but you had to move them. Cost of moving these buildings was about an additional $400 a piece. So for about $800, there was about a dozen houses in Okanagan Falls. Got a pretty good start, right? It was a pretty reasonable way to put up a house. This addition is one of those buildings, and it was I think it was Trev Jones that organized bringing it down from Copper Mountain. They dug out a small basement underneath the addition, underneath the north side of the addition, and low bedded and jacked the building into place. And originally this building was the Cub Scouts Hall in Copper Mountain. So yeah, that's the story of the blasted church of Okanagan Falls. Now, I also wanted to mention that if any of you guys have a local or family story that you would like me to share, by all means, I'd love to hear it. Reach out to me in the comments or send me an email, whatever is convenient. There's more videos to come, and do me a favor, make sure you subscribe. That's going to help me. That's going to help push me along get me to make more content. So, all right, guys, cheers.